So I just want to say, blockchain re-commerce effectively means I run her second-hand platform. So if you follow Robert's instructions and do leave your mangy leather jacket in the unsupervised cloakroom, that's going on Swap Studio. Thank you very much. I will answer your questions about what a blockchain re-commerce platform is at some point. But as Robert said, what I want to talk about today is people, individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Because I think in Agile, we end up talking so much about teamwork and building, autonomous, self-managing teams that we forget about the motivations of the individual. We forget that, for lack of a better way of saying it, we are selfish, right? Each one of us wants to grow, we want to be promoted, we want to be recognized for our achievements. And Agile actually provides us a really good foundation for doing this. But we seem to forget about individuals as we try and build really good teams. So before I get into all that, you're probably wondering, who the fuck is she and why should we listen to anything she has to say, right? I'm going to get in trouble now for saying fuck in a corporate setting, but I've said it now twice. I'll be beeped out in the recording. So I'll introduce myself, right? So Nilofer Christensen, most people call me Nilu. You can stop me at any point and ask me a question. I'll try and not take the entire hour and talk at you. We can hopefully finish a little bit early. But so I've been in sort of tech and a combination of tech and sustainability my whole career. I started off in academics. I did my doctorate in engineering. And I stuck around to teach sustainable infrastructure engineering at the University of Melbourne. This is in Australia, very far away. Has anyone been to Australia? Ah, wow. Okay, you guys travel a lot more than the Dutch. Whenever I ask this question in the Dutch setting, Netherlands where I live, I get one hand. It's too far. It's too far. We can't travel there by boat. Takes a while. That's true. So I then, spent a little bit of time in academics and realized, actually, this is all great. Theoretical physics is amazing. But the applications are a lot more interesting. So I started my own company, which was, basically in app development. I then transitioned to TomTom, where I've spent 5 years working in senior product management. And that's where I got my taste of Agile in a really large setting. From there, I joined to Scale Up as their chief operating officer and really was responsible for bringing in Agile from the ground up. Now I'm running my own company, Swap Studio. It is my third company, so I've been in sort of various settings. And I've seen Agile implemented in very different ways, right? There's some organizations that really use Agile to build a beautiful culture within the organization. And some who just look at it as a manual book that you follow from cover to cover. And so what I want to talk about today is really how we can use Agile to really promote the growth of people in the organization, right? So firstly, let's talk about growth, right? Why am I talking about growth? Because all the organizations I've been a part of, that's one thing that's always been common, right? This obsession with growth, right? But what is every organization trying to grow? Is it right? Revenue, generally, but it's a function of reach, or leads, or app downloads, or memberships, or recurring subscriptions. It's always some form of product growth. And what we forget is that we can't grow products without good people. And what do good people need? They need personal and professional growth, right? And we start to build teams, as I've said, and we forget about individuals. And Agile was first, there is an I in Agile. Right, and we also, Agile was one of the founding principles was to find a rational human approach to do complex work, right? As I keep saying, value interactions, as Robert said, value individuals and interactions over people and tools. Build projects around motivated individuals. But we seem to have lost this focus on the individual and how important the individual is to actually building a really successful product and to growing a product in an organization. So if there's one takeaway from this, forget everything else I've said. Remember that you need individual growth to power product growth, right? So how do you do this? How do you build an organization that focuses your product growth on people first? And so I'm going to give you some, 5 steps on how to do this. Now, I'll say up front, this is not an easy thing to do, right? A lot of you will sit here and go, there's no bloody way I'll be able to do this in my organization. It's just too hard, it's going to require too much change, it's just not possible, right? But I'm guessing a lot of you have been part of agile transformations before, right? And the whole point of this is to challenge some of the basic ways we've been doing things and to start a conversation, to go back and be inspired to do things a little bit differently, to bring about a little bit more change in your organization. Because agile is a journey, right? And so is this. This is a journey. So look at this as being inspired, as something inspirational to go back, take back to your organizations, and if nothing else, remember that individual growth powers product growth. And don't forget about the individual as you're trying to build autonomous, self-managed teams. Yeah? Should we get started? Have I lost everyone? Do I need to swear one more time to get everyone's attention? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to start off stepping all over the next person's talk. Okay. So, forget about OKRs. So I'm going to say this right up front, because I know there are two brilliant talks coming today about OKRs, and I encourage you to go to them. My sincere, humble apologies. No. So in a performance-driven organization, this objective and key result methodology does work, right? But it's not a silver bullet. If you have an organization that is used to doing, I'm doing really well, okay. Okay.
But feel free to,
Yeah, I'll see. I'll try and, increase my reign. Okay, so it's not a silver bullet. If you do have an organization that has traditionally done KPIs and, mid and end of year performance reviews and promotion and salary negotiations, then actually trying to put OKRs in is a mammoth task, right? It requires cultural change in your organization. So you can't just go from a traditional organization and suddenly wake up and go, well, because Google is doing OKRs, we are going to do OKRs. That is the wrong reason to do OKRs. So if you're looking to transition from a KPI-driven organization to something that is performance-driven, all I'm saying is that there is a more welcoming way to do this than OKRs, right? OKRs tend to get people's back up. So take a baby step and find a more welcoming way to do this. And here's one suggestion, okay? Very simple, very easy. And I'm guessing a lot of you have actually seen some of this before. So start off, step one is to have a big, hairy, audacious goal, BHAG. I'm guessing a lot of people have heard the term BHAG before. Yeah, I'm getting nods, great. Yeah, a big, hairy, audacious goal. And this should be something that's measurable and tangible, but it should be very easily rememberable. Rememberable. I'm going to say that's a word. We're going to go with that. That's a word. Okay. Now, this could be for your team, for your organization, right? Doesn't matter. I'll give you an example. So when I worked at TomTom, I was helping to build and launch a product called Amigo. It was supposed to be a competitor to Waze. So it was an app that I'm guessing people have heard of Waze? Yeah? The crowdsourced kind of traffic application that now Google owns. This is exactly what TomTom was trying to do, or it has been doing, actually. And our BHAG was to have 50 million drivers who felt like they owned the road and they shared their experience, right? You wanted to feel like you owned the road and shared the experience. Own the road, share the experience. Own the road, share the experience. This is the kind of line that we were trying to push and make sure it was memorable. This was our BHAG, 50 million drivers who owned the road and shared the experience. Now, as a product manager leading this product, I had to make sure that everyone remembered this BHAG and that it was translated into 3 annual horizons, as we call them, 3 steps. 3 things that got you this year 1 step or 9 steps closer to the BHAG. And it was important that every single person in my team remembered this. And there was a really simple way to do this. I designed a postcard. It cost me 20 euros. I designed a postcard, printed it out, and put it on every single person's desk at the start of the year. And all it said was 50 million drivers who own the road and share the experience, and it had the 3 annual horizons to help us get 1 step closer to the goal. Really simple, a postcard stuck on everybody's desk, right? Beautifully designed. I got one of the UX designers, UI designers to help me to design it. That's all we did, right? So it becomes memorable. There you go. So you've created team goals. You've created a team goal. You've created a combined vision for your team. Now it's time to focus on the individual, right? So one thing I suggest is take every single person in your team and ask them every month to pick a focus area, okay? By the way, I've written a really long blog post about this, so if you actually want to, go and read the details of what I'm saying, you can. So don't worry about taking notes for anyone who feels like they need to take notes. So every single human in your organization needs to have impact, needs to show initiative, and needs to invest in their own personal development in order to keep adding value to your team or your organization. But you need to create the environment to allow them to do this, right? So every month, get every single person in your team to pick a focus area. Impact is something that they do that's tangible and visibly helps you to get one step closer to your annual horizons, right? It has to be something tangible, measurable that they do that month to help you get closer to your goals. Initiative is they find anything that needs to be improved and they take the steps to improve it. Could be a process. Anything in your team that needs to be improved and they take a step closer to achieving that. And growth. Growth is their own personal development and growth. They need to learn something new. Every 3 months, every single person in your team needs to learn something new. Could be a new language, doesn't matter, right? They need to learn something new. Could be that they get their, scuba diver's license. It's still personal growth, right? And everyone should cycle through all three every 3 months. Why? Because growth invariably will take a backseat, always. You have a million things to do that take a higher priority, and you will not take the time and the effort to do that training course or to invest in your own personal growth. The fact that all of you are here today already shows that you're invested in your own personal growth and the growth of your companies and organizations. So that's brilliant, right? But doing this once a year is, I believe, not enough. I would do Agile Tour all the time if I could. Yeah?
You have much work.
Hey, I'm only here presenting, so. So impact initiative of growth, make sure every single person in your team picks an area and they cycle through every 3 months, right? Now, we did this at the organization where I joined Charge Trip, where I was the chief COO. We did this just in Asana. We created an Asana board and everyone put in their focus area and they put in a little tweet-sized goal. So it was visible to everyone. It was really simple. You don't need complicated tools. Do it on a whiteboard somewhere in your team, right? Translate your focus area into a tweet-sized goal, right? Keep it really simple, keep it really lean. Just a goal that I'm going to do, either an impact initiative or growth every month, right? That's as simple as it is for you to take one step closer to maybe doing OKRs in the future, right? Go from a KPI-driven organization to something that's measurable, lean, and focuses on individual growth, right? A team-wide or company-wide BHAG translated to three annual horizons translated to an individual focus area and individual tweet-sized goals every month. Yeah? How are we doing? We're good? Yeah? I think this is kind of simple, and this, I think, we can start to take steps towards. Yeah? Okay, so let's keep going. Get rid of all line managers. I'm really making friends here today. So, I was one myself, right? So I'm here putting my own job at stake. What I'm trying to say is the word boss or line manager has a lot of negative connotations. I'm sure a lot of you are already doing coaches, right? Coaches is a much more positive connotation because it implies that a coach is here to help you to learn and to grow, right? Because, please manage me, said nobody ever. Honestly, who here thinks they need a line manager? They need to be managed. Exactly. The thing is, the day you go to work and do your best, you know it, right? The day you went to work and just, went on social media and read the news articles, didn't really perform at your best, you also knew that. You didn't need anybody to tell you didn't perform at your best today, right? So who needs to be managed? I don't need to be managed. You don't need to be managed. Why do we need to be managed? We all know when we've done a good job and we haven't done so well, right? So remove bosses and line managers, create coaches. I'm sure some of you are already doing this, right? But remember, your coaches need to have enough autonomy and authority to positively impact someone's growth, but take away any ability for them to positively impact performance, but take away any ability for them to negatively impact a person's growth. And do this by making performance a peer-reviewed process, right? Make performance peer-reviewed so that, remember, you're trying to create autonomous teams, right? Autonomous teams that are self-managing. Then why do you need one line manager evaluating everybody's performance? Why not make performance peer-reviewed and make teams accountable for each other's performance? At this point, you've already created a BHAG, you've created annual goals, so you've got team goals. You have your own sprint and release goals as well, right? So the team knows what they're supposed to do. At an individual level, make performance peer-reviewed as well. So every month when I set my tweet-sized goal, I nominate 2 of my peers at the end of the month to give me feedback on my performance. I nominate them when I set my goal. My coach's responsibility is then to help me to achieve that goal. Brainstorming ideas, directing resources, creating networks, and removing obstacles, right? Kind of what a Scrum Master does, but at an individual level, right? At the end of the month, my coach collects the feedbacks from my nominated peers, and we have a retrospective about my performance. And then my coach helps me to set my focus area and my tweet-sized goal for next month. So it's just a little bit more to what you're already doing for your teams. Do it at the individual level. Okay, and make performance a peer-reviewed process. Give everyone a coach that helps them to learn and grow within the organization, rather than a line manager who has to assess their performance. Yeah? So far, so good? Should we keep going down the yellow brick road? Okay, now, what about promotions, right? Because growth means that you are learning, you are developing, and you're getting promoted within the organization. But to have any kind of promotion process, you first need a hierarchy of growth, right? You need some kind of growth path for an individual. And this is where I think most organizations fall down, right? I remember being at TomTom going, well, what's my next level? Well, my VP said to me, well, I can't really promote you because you'd then be doing my job, and what would I be doing? Well, why should it be like that? Why do I have to wait for my manager to die before I can get a promotion? And why does he or she get to decide when I am ready for promotion? It's ridiculous. This is what leads to disgruntled employees. This is why we start looking around at other organizations who'll pay me more money, give me a better job title. This is why we do it, because there is no individual growth path for every single member in the organization. So let's change that, right? Create hierarchy because you need hierarchy. You need hierarchy because hierarchy is what creates a growth path. But hierarchy has a negative connotation again, just like line managers, right? It means that it's not a flat organization. So a group that does this really well is martial arts, right? You have belts. And there's very clear ways to get from one belt to the other. But you can't really do this in a tech organization. Well, not a tech organization I want to work in. Aha, you're now a green belt, yeah! No, it's extremely masculine. We can do ballet levels, maybe that'll work. I'd like that. So what works really well actually in a tech organization is apprenticeship levels, right? Now, you don't need to do this formally. It doesn't need to be a top-down thing that's implemented right across your organization. You could do it in your own team. You could decide in your team, you probably already know who's a novice engineer, who's an accomplished, who's experienced, who's a principal engineer. You already know this. What you need to do is make it really, really visible and transparent in your team, right? Create apprenticeship levels for every single job. Now, it doesn't matter if you're in engineering or you're in marketing or you're in product or you're in design. Everyone should have apprenticeship levels and the same apprenticeship levels. But make it really, really clear what it takes to go from one apprenticeship level to the other. Okay, like you might go from a trainee engineer to a novice. If you learn Java, you can deal with errors and you can write basic unit tests. You can go from an accomplished product manager to an experienced product manager if you can translate complex technical concepts into simple business language for a variety of stakeholders, right? Just make it really simple. How do you get from one level to the other in your organization, right? Create a hierarchy of growth for every single person in your organization. Yes? Yeah? I feel like I have missed something. What have I missed? I did miss something. Level the playing field. As I said, you need to have the same levels of growth for no matter whether you're in marketing, in design, in product, or in engineering. right? And this can be a hard sell because you might have a specific technical skill that's hard to find, so you'll value that more. But this value is completely subjective. Yes, I know you can't build a good scalable tech product without having really good engineers. But you can't sell that product without having really good product evangelists either. So why is it that when you hire a marketeer, you still don't value them as much as your React Native developer? It doesn't matter. Your Agile team needs every type of person in order to succeed. So value each individual skill, no matter if they're a designer, a marketeer, an engineer, or a product manager. They should all have the same apprenticeship levels to grow through. Value them as much as each other. Yeah? How am I doing for time? Pretty good. I think I'm going to finish nice and early. Now, yeah. Good, yeah.
If you go back to the playgrounds, you have several of them, right? So if you're an engineer, it's different from if you're a designer. So you jump maybe from playgrounds to playgrounds.
Yes.
So you start again at the bottom, or it's a network a little bit
Yes.
more than just the one.
Exactly. So I'm not basing, this is based on whatever job you're doing, you would have a different requirement to go from. As you said, playgrounds is a really good word. I haven't heard that before, but I love that. So you would have different playgrounds, but the same levels, and you would define very clearly how you move. So if you change across job titles, you would start at a different apprenticeship level. But that is decoupled from your pay or anything like that. I'll come to pay in a second. It's decoupled from your pay. This is your growth path as an individual, completely decoupled from your pay. So if I'm now a marketeer and I decide to become a product manager, I go to another playground, excellent analogy, and I might start as a trainee product manager even though I was an experienced engineer. Decoupled from pay. I just have a new growth path. Yeah?
You said decoupled from pay. Would you see it also decoupled from the area of responsibility?
What do you mean?
So let's say you give the example that as an experienced product manager, I
Yeah.
would be expected to scale down complex technical problems into clear business language.
Yeah.
Would that come hand in hand with getting a bigger responsibility, a bigger product, or something, or is that independent?
That depends on your organization entirely. Depends on your organization entirely. Yeah. So having more areas of responsibility could mean, it depends, so it could be that you're not any more accomplished, you're actually experienced or master. And you can define more levels. Actually, if you look at my blog post, I've got a lot more levels. I simplified it here, right? So it depends on, you could have areas of responsibility as one definition as part of experience to accomplished. Do you get what I mean? So say at accomplished level, I only manage one product. At experience level, I might now have 3 products to manage. That could be another definition as part of experience, to graduate from accomplished to experienced. Does that answer your question?
Partially. The motivation behind my question was that what I heard between the lines that you're trying to achieve here is to move away from these titles, this territorial setup that what is your title, right? It's really about what is my expertise in different areas.
So titles, I'm not moving away from titles because job titles matter. No matter what people say, job titles matter. They confer status, they confer decision-making power. So what you would do in your organization is you would actually attach your own job titles to this, right? So what I'm trying to say is decouple that from pay.
Okay.
Right? So yes, so keep going. I know you haven't finished. I'm saying, so this is not attached to your pay. It is attached to your experience and what you've learned. And yes, you would have job titles associated with this.
Okay. I mean, that was my concern,
Yes.
so let's continue then.
Yeah,
I guess,
okay.
to get to my point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah? So I'm not saying get away from job titles. In fact, I'm a really big proponent of job titles, right? I think job titles matter. As I say, they confer status, they confer decision-making power. Don't take that away. People like job titles. I like job titles. I like being a CEO. People look at me differently when I say I'm Dr. Nilofer Christensen, CEO of Swap Studio, right? Than saying I'm a bootstrapped entrepreneur. I'm not a bootstrap entrepreneur. But just saying that makes a difference. So job titles matter. I'm not saying take away your job titles. I'm saying create very clear growth paths where everyone knows how they grow within the organization. You can add your own job titles to this, right? You can have a trainee who's a junior. You can have a novice who's just, say, software engineer. You can have accomplished who's a senior software engineer. You could have a principal software engineer. That's how you can make it clear what someone's apprenticeship or mastery level is in the organization. What you need to do is make that, you already have this. You already have junior software engineers, principal software, you already have this. But it's not clear, how do I get from being a junior to a principal? Make that clear. Make the levels of growth clear in your organization. Don't take it all and you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just make it really clear, how do I get from one point to the other? And do this for every part of your organization. Yeah? Okay. And decouple it from pay is what I'm about to get to in a minute. Okay. So, promotions. Promotions based on nominations. This is when I tend to lose everyone. Let's see how we go today. Yeah, let's see how we go. So far we've said you create a BHAG, you translate that into 3 annual horizons. I then have individual focus area every month and an individual tweet size goal. And my performance is now peer reviewed, right? I'm sure a lot of you already do 360-degree reviews. Yes? Kind of? It's a bullshit process, get rid of it. It's rubbish. I remember doing 360-degree reviews, and you had this complicated system. I had to put my review, and it then went off somewhere to somebody else to put in their 360-degree review. Come on, it's a load of crap. What's happening to valuing individuals and interactions over processes and tools? 360-degree reviews are just a bureaucratic way to do peer reviews. There's simpler ways to do it. Simpler ways. There you go. I got a clap. Thank you. Just find a simple way to do it. Tap someone on the shoulder. Hey, can you tell me how I did on my goal? This was my goal last month. Can you tell me how I did? Tap someone on the shoulder and ask them. You don't need one-on-ones. You don't need any of that, right? Interactions are important. Find a way to do interactions that are easy, right? So promote based on nominations. So if every month I'm getting my tweet size goal reviewed by 2 of my peers, I'm then sitting down and doing a retrospective with my coach to say, how did I do this month? Help me set my goal for next month. Then effectively, my promotion is me growing from one level to the other, going from a trainee to a novice to experience, et cetera, right? So if my performance is peer reviewed, it means I'm accountable to my peers. I'm no longer only accountable to my coach or my line manager, I'm accountable to my peers. So any one of my peers can nominate me for a promotion. And if 2 other people second that motion, I should get my promotion. Because so far, based on what I've just set up, my performance is a peer review process. So my promotion should also be a peer review process. If any one person in the team says, Nilofer is now ready to go from a novice to an experienced product manager, 2 other people in my team support that, I automatically get promoted, I get some predefined pay rise, I'll come to pay rises in a minute, and I get a new job title. Why do I have to wait for my manager to tell me at my 6 or my 12-month review, we'll now put a business case together to senior management for you to now become a director. Then I have to sit down and negotiate my pay, blah, 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 blah. You are now this grade and this scale. It's not transparent. It makes me unmotivated. I sit down to have this conversation and I'm already sweating, right? Make it a peer review process. Any one of my peers can nominate me to get promoted to the next level in my apprenticeship level. If 2 other people second that, I get an automatic pay rise, a new job title, and now I'm officially in my next level of my apprenticeship. Yeah?
Do you do that in fixed iterations or continuously?
Anytime.
Anytime.
Why? Anytime.
Does the whole system speeds up with that at a certain time? So it becomes
What do you mean?
faster and faster?
Well, so your growth, your own nomination, your own growth will depend on how quickly you learn, right? And how quickly you progress. So when I've implemented this, it doesn't get quicker over time. It's just different for each individual. Some people, like for instance, you might bring in a really senior engineer and they might grow really quickly because they just have that much experience and they can build on that very quickly, right? You might have a novice engineer who takes a little longer to get to experience and then they accelerate. So there's a teething phase with this. It takes a while for teams to get used to using this process, but it's effectively building on what you already have. It's just making it more transparent. I haven't seen it speed up over time. I've just seen that it creates individual growth effectively, and you grow as fast as you learn. as much time as you invest in yourself. But this also means I don't become selfish, right? Because my team is now going to hold me accountable. So I'm focusing on my own growth. I am focusing on my own growth, but my team holds me accountable, not just my line manager. Yeah.
I'd just like to know, can you tell us about your experience?
Of course.
If you, as you have been introducing this method, did you have some resistance from your colleagues? Because I can imagine it's not so easy to say publicly, my goal is in 3 months I'm going to learn that and that. I can decide it for myself and then keep it secret and be happy in 3 months. But what if I fail?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I face a lot of resistance, and there's a teething phase with this, right? I was lucky enough to be senior enough to be able to implement this, but my approach was never to do it top-down. You're never going to achieve this top-down. You need buy-in from everyone, just like any agile transformation. So yeah, I face a lot of resistance because putting your goals and making them transparent is difficult. But that's all about creating the culture, creating this culture of failure we talk about. That it's okay to fail because I still learned. Because your entire attitude is to learn and to grow. None of this is ticking boxes or succeeding or failing. It's all, are you learning and growing? So if that becomes the attitude of your team, then it doesn't matter if you fail, because it's not about whether you failed or succeeded, it's about what you learned. So it took a while to convince everyone in the organization to make their goals public. But then we took the first step. We made promotions, the promotion process extremely public. We made each person's individual growth part extremely public. We made the way we set pay, I'm coming to that in a minute, extremely public. So everyone knew this formula that we used to define pay. So because we started with transparency from an organizational perspective, it then set the foundations for individuals to be transparent. So it took time. It didn't take forever. It took about 6 months to get everybody on board. And then it just became, so whenever you want to start a new process, you need 2 things. You need repetition, and you need to give it status. That process needs to have some sort of status, and it needs repetition. And you get status by senior management basically saying, okay, we're going to try this out, right? And you repeat it. You do it every month. But you need to realize it's agile, and agile is a journey, and you experiment. And if you fail, you try something different. And then you fail again, and you try something different. So you do all of this in the spirit of agile, and you take baby steps, one thing at a time. But you have to start out with, if you're leading a team, you started with you being transparent. You lead by example. You be transparent, you make growth paths transparent, you make pay scales transparent. You start off with transparency, and then you'll get buy-in from the rest of your team. That's how we did it, but it wasn't easy. Yeah.
So I have 2 points. So first, you said you want to decouple this kind of growth path from salary, but now you said there is like a fixed increase of salary associated with each level of your career path.
Yes.
First thing.
Yeah.
Second thing is, do you also have like an expectation from the company side about how people are growing? So is it acceptable to stay, let's say, on the first level forever, or do you expect that people are growing within like a certain amount of time?
I don't think so. So to answer your decouple from pay, what I'm trying to say, which is my next point actually, is to stop all salary negotiations. You do need to have some kind of financial incentive to grow from one point to the other, because that's what people want, right? You want to have enough money on the table so that that conversation is no longer needed. So when I say decouple from pay, decouple from salary negotiations. Make it very transparent what that pay scale is. That's my last point I'm coming to now anyways. Your second was, yes, is there an expectation? There's an expectation that an individual continues to learn and continues to grow to add value. There's no time limit to that, because everyone grows differently, and you need to create the environment to allow people to grow differently. Also, you'll have certain people who don't want to keep growing. They want to remain at a certain level. But are they continuing to add value to your organization? If they are, great, because their peers will hold them accountable. But if they're not continuing to add value to the organization, that's when you need to reassess. Right? So I wouldn't say there has to be an expectation that you have to go from trainee to novice or novice to experience within 6 months, because everyone grows differently. But that person needs to keep adding value to the organization, which is why every month you pick a focus area, you pick a tweet size goal, and the umbrella to that is your company BHAG and your company annual horizons, or your sprint goals or release goals. That is the umbrella to me setting my own focus area and tweet size goal. Right? So there's no expectation you'll grow in a certain amount of time, but there's an expectation that you as a person will keep developing and keep adding value to the organization, to the team's annual goals. Yeah? Yeah? That's why also I said decouple pay but I'm going to come to pay in a second. Yeah.
So,
hi.
So I understood you did it in Amsterdam? Or
Yes.
TomTom?
Yes.
Is TomTom also an international organization? Did you see cultural differences?
No, so we didn't do this in TomTom. I did this at Charge Trip, but yes, yes, I did it in Amsterdam at Charge Trip and in my own organizations.
Because I can imagine that cultural differences are important also, or will have a different reaction on that approach.
Of course. That makes a huge difference. So I think in the Netherlands, it's a very honest culture, and that definitely does help. But I think it's transparency can transcend culture. So in any culture, you can promote transparency. It is harder in certain cultures than in others. I completely understand that. But creating transparency is going to benefit you, and it's going to add to your culture more than subtract from it, right? When you hire someone new in your team, the golden rule is values fit, culture add, right? That's your golden rule. Values fit, culture add. And so if you say that transparency is one of your values and you start to promote that, I think that's just going to add to your culture.
I fully agree. I always say, like, if a company or organization doesn't embrace transparency, they should not go into Agile at all.
Yeah. It is very hard to build a company that's going to last a long time without having transparency. And you'll, end up with the issues that Google is having, or Facebook. So, okay. My last point is stop all salary negotiations. I've said very, very difficult things to do here. I have done that. I know I have. And I'm probably challenging everyone in this room to go, how am I actually going to do any of this, right? But if there's anyone who can go and implement change, it's all of you here today. You specifically come here today to go back to your organizations and make a difference. The fact that you're here today gives me hope that some of this is possible. Right? I've done this in organizations. I've done this in my own organizations and an organization called Charge Trip, and I've written about it as well. So last one, stop all salary negotiations. What you need is some kind of fair pay formula, right? This is all, I know this is hard to do, but you can start with your new hires. And this is what we did at Charge Trip. We started with our new hires. I couldn't go across the entire organization and recalibrate everybody's pay. I'd be shot in the back. Right? It's not possible. But we made a decision that for every new hire, we would now apply a fair pay formula. Why? Because salary negotiations, they benefit the confident. People who can debate, people who can turn a phrase, people like myself, right? I'm very good at salary negotiations, right? But what about the quiet achievers? People who are adding considerable value to the organization and growing within your organization. They draw the short straw. What about gender? There's such a huge gender pay gap because we know that women are not as good as negotiating than men are, right? So the only way to stop this is to make it really transparent. So don't go back and recalibrate the salaries of everyone in your organization. That's too hard to do, right? But start with your new hires. It's a very simple process. Come up with your own formula. This is one that we published in Charge Trip. We made it public. That this is our fair pay formula. Depending on the location that you're hired in, because that's important, because affordability is different in every location, you have some kind of locale factor, some kind of base pay for the geography we're hiring in, then your values fit, and your apprenticeship level when you're hired. Now, I'll explain why we do it this way. As I said, the golden rule for hiring is values fit, culture add, right? So say you have your interview process has 3 people interviewing a candidate. Get all those 3 people to do a basic survey to say, okay, how does this person fit in with the values of our team? Use that as a multiplier in your formula, right? Do they fit in the values of the team? Mastery level is where are they at when you hire them? Are they a novice? Are they training? Are they accomplished? Are they a master, right? And this also can be a survey of everyone who interviewed the person who got hired. This is already done, right? This is not something new. So Google does. Has anyone here done an interview with Google? Yeah? So you can see that like every single person takes notes and they fill out this extensive note and survey at the end. And the actual salary package you get, I've also interviewed with Google, so this is first-hand experience. The salary package that you get is based on all of those factors that all of your interviewees have actually surveyed you and given you a score. Right? And it's a score from 1 to 4, and you have to get a minimum of 3 to get an offer at the end. So this is something that Google already does. It's just not as transparent unless you've been through the process. So why you can come up with your own formula, right? This is just very simple. Based on the geography you're hired in, your value fit within the team, or what factor your interviewers think was your value fit in the team, and also the perception of your fit for the job. What level are you at in your apprenticeship? Yeah.
Question for the values. I mean,
yeah.
values for me, the most fluctuable measure, because it depends in which team you are.
Yes, of course.
So, for example, Tesla is not using teams anymore. They have mobs. And then you, on every day decision, you change the mob, or you change your value, or you pick your own value and say, I'm more valuable here.
Yeah.
So that makes it for me a little bit, if it's a very static environment, fine, because then it's a bit static. But if you're coming in a very fast environment, maybe you have to replace that value topic a little bit with different things, right?
I think we're looking at values differently. I'm looking at values in terms of transparency, like, loyalty, those kind of intangible values. Yeah, more generic values. But again, you can define your own formula, and you can have a different formula for every team, right? You can't go back. It's very difficult to recalibrate everyone's salaries, but for new hires. So saying your new hire is part of a particular team, you would look at the values of that team. And I'm more looking at the cultural values of the team, not just the goals or what they're expected to achieve in that sense. Yeah, because that's really important, because I think when you hire someone, they may not have the technical skills you need, but technical skills can be learned. But you can't replace loyalty and hard work and tenacity and those kind of values, right? So it's a bit more subjective. Well, that's why you get every single person interviewing to score independently, and then you take an average or some other way of doing it. Yeah?
Okay. Would you re-evaluate the values as well?
Absolutely, you should. Definitely, right? This is not something that stays forever. You iterate, just like you would anything else, right? So the reason I do this as well is because then if you make an offer to the candidate, you make this really clear. So in Chartship, we publish this. This is how we do it. We published our values as well. And the mastery level actually was also published. And then you make an offer to a candidate, and they say, actually, I don't agree with this offer. The only negotiable part of this formula should be the mastery level, right? Because then you sit and talk about their fit for the job, how experienced they are for that particular job. And people are much more comfortable negotiating that than they are about their take-home pay. So make the only negotiable part of this formula mastery level, so that you are sitting across the table from your new candidate or who you're trying to hire, and that's what you're negotiating. They're fit for the job, not their take-home pay. People don't like negotiating take-home pay. It makes them uncomfortable, and it makes me uncomfortable. Every time someone came up to me and wanted to talk about a promotion or a pay rise, it made me uncomfortable, because in TomTom my hands were tied. I had a limited budget. There was only so much I could do, right? And saying no is hard, especially if you know that person deserves it, right? So, yeah. Yeah.
How do you handle non-paid portions of compensation, whether it be stock options, bonuses, a company car, extra vacation days, stuff like that?
I don't have an answer to that, and I'll very honestly tell you that. I don't have an answer to that. That bit I haven't figured out yet. So maybe one of you can and help me. Yeah. I don't know. I'm very much talking about a monetary part of your pay. But like I said, you can come up with your own formula, right? This is not written in stone. This is something we were trialing. We kept iterating on this again and again. So you could just add another factor to this formula. Just make it transparent. Publish it as part of your job description. Just make it really transparent. So come up with your own formula. And remember, the only negotiable part of this should be your mastery level, nothing else. Yeah? Okay, now, everything I've said here is hard work. You'll feel like you're seesawing against a rock, or trying to push a beached whale back into the water all by yourself. It's hard work, right? But Agile is a journey. It's a journey. And you keep iterating and you keep improving. And the one thing you take away is that individual growth is intrinsic to your product growth. If you have a team or an organization that promotes growth and development of the individual, you'll create people who are motivated, who thrive on challenges, and who hold each other accountable. And this is how you'll create an environment where ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things, if you focus on individual growth. So, quick summary. Don't worry about OKRs. A company BHAG or a team BHAG translated to 3 annual horizons translate it to individual focus areas and tweet size goals. Make this all peer-reviewed, right? Remove bosses, no line managers, but give everyone a coach that helps them to learn and grow in the organization. Create a hierarchy, so levels of growth in an organization, and make it extremely clear what the responsibilities and the expectations of every single level are. And do this for every single type of person, your type of marketing, design, product, across your PU, your team, or your organization. Make people accountable to each other, whether it's for their monthly performance or as for their growth in the organization, right? Give a coach a power to positively impact someone's performance, but not to negatively impact their growth. And finally, do your salaries based on a fair pay formula that you've defined, and make sure you negotiate fit for job and not take home pay, right? Because Agile is a journey, a difficult journey, where we can get there together. Thank you very much. It's been very emotional. Not bad, not bad.